Hello, welcome back to Nails Before Films, where I do movie nails and talk about those movies. Today's horror movies are sort of related to last time. We'll be looking at The Collector and The Collection today. The Collector came out in 2009 and was originally pitched as a prequel to Saw, serving as an origin story for John Kramer. However, the producers rejected this idea and it was eventually made into an original movie. A sequel, The Collection, came out in 2012. The two movies are written by the same guys who wrote Saw 4, 5, 6, and 3D. So you can expect The Collector and The Collection to be very gory as well. Let's go over the basic story first. In the first movie, the main character, King O'Brien, who's a former convict, breaks into the house he works in to steal from the owner so that he can help his wife and daughter. However, someone else has already broken into the house and set up traps everywhere. He later learns that this other intruder is the Collector, who collects humans. He takes one person from the household he chose and kills everyone else. Eventually, King escapes with the family's youngest daughter, while everyone else is killed by the Collector. However, King is later captured by the Collector, who ambushes the ambulance he's on. That's basically the first movie. In the next movie, we meet Elena, the daughter of a rich guy. She goes to a nightclub, which happens to be the Collector's next target. Oh, and he puts King there as bait. Elena frees King, who escapes, but the Collector takes Elena and kills everyone else. However, King is later recruited by Lucello, an employee of Elena's father, who assembles a team to rescue her. King leads them to the Collector's base and is forced to assist in the search. Elena frees herself from the trunk and eventually reunites with King and Lucello. Of course, the Collector finds the group and everyone is killed except King and Elena. The two manage to escape, but the Collector survives too. Later, King finds out who the Collector is and tracks him down. Instead of killing him immediately, he locks him in a trunk with the intention of torturing and eventually killing him. Now the story is out of the way, let's get into it. I do think the first movie has an interesting concept. It's a combination of home invasion and reverse home invasion if you think about it. For the family targeted by the Collector, it's definitely a home invasion. But for King, it's more of a reverse home invasion situation. He just so happens to break into a house that's essentially a death trap. I think the traps are pretty smart. The Collector puts traps on everything that people will go for when they're in distress. Things like phones, windows, and weapons, they're all booby-trapped. That's honestly pretty clever and showcases how threatening and malicious the Collector is. Even without all the torture stuff, the traps themselves set him up to be a very sick, sharp, and terrifying villain. Now that I've mentioned it, let's talk about the torture and splatter. Surprisingly, I'm not a big fan of it. Like I said, I think the traps are what make the movies interesting and unique. The parts where the Collector just straight up tortures people are too pornish in my opinion. It's not particularly fun to look at and just make you feel gross. So I think they kind of overuse the gore, but people who like it will like it. I personally think it's okay, a bit excessive, but doesn't slow down the movie too much or make it unwatchable. The second movie goes even further by making the Collector experiment on people and display weird body part sculptures. I appreciate the visuals and the effort the special effect artists put in, but I guess it just doesn't fit in with the image of the Collector I got in the first film. I thought he was just into collecting people. I didn't expect all this stuff about drugs, zombies, and modern art. For me, I think it's mostly just for scary visuals and shock value, but they don't really add anything to the story. I mean, we already know the collector is sick. You don't really need to prove it further. Next, for the characters, I do like Arkin and Elena a lot. Although Arkin is a thief and originally planned on escaping himself, he comes back in the first movie to save the little girl. I know he ditches Elena at the beginning of the second film, but I can get that he doesn't want to be tortured again, so I don't blame him. I like Elena as well. Although she's reasonably terrified, she's still capable and tries to save herself. You do cheer for these characters and hope they'll survive. It's exciting to see how they try to outsmart the collector in order to escape. But as it goes for these kinds of movies, you don't really care for anyone else because you know they'll die. At least most of the victims are not jerks like in the Saw movies, except for Elena's boyfriend and the Stockholm Syndrome Abby girl. So you do feel a little bad for the other characters. But oh well, it's a splatter film. The splatter has to come from somewhere. That basically wraps up my thoughts on the collector and the collection. I do like the concept a lot, especially in the first movie. The feeling of your house, of a regular house, being remodeled into a museum of booby traps is pretty unsettling, and it does make us wonder how the protagonist will escape when there seems to be no way out. It's a shame that the third film is stuck in production hell. I do think it deserves to get another movie, much more than a lot of the terrible sequels we get in recent years. But at the same time, it's not like I'm dying to see a third film. I can live just fine without another collector movie. It will be fun to see Arkin and Elena against the insect-obsessed R-rated Home Alone Kevin again, so I do hope it eventually gets made. According to Wikipedia, the movie is not cancelled, but production seems highly unlikely to resume after being shut down so suddenly. Oh well, you never know about these kinds of things. Who knows when the studio will run out of ideas and decide to pick this up again. There is always hope. Anyway, hope you guys like my collector nail. I'm not particularly happy with this one, but I think I did a decent job on my tiny pinky nail. As always, like, subscribe, comment, share, do what you want, and keep nailing it, people.